So let me ask you a question. So I saw, because you had a 1-2 punch over the last couple of days. You had the Matthew Vaughn interview come out where you talking to him face to face. Had you seen Kingsman yet? Because you then had your video come out today saying you didn't like it, and it wasn't like, and that it bothered you.
So I had seen Kingsman when I was talking to Matthew Vaughn. Yes. Is
that weird?
What? Sorry.
Is it weird?
Is it weird? No, because I admire him so much that I had so much stuff to ask him anyway that I didn't worry about, like, oh, what if the second movie comes up? Like, he's not going to sit there and ask me what I thought. Like, there's no way that was going to happen. I know, right? I sat there, I love it.
I like it so much that I want to be in the next one.
Please.
And I'll pay you.
But the thing about it, like, I went out with a friend of mine who I don't get to see very often, and he's Irish, so he got me, well, I won't blame him completely, but we got very, very drunk the night before, and I woke up and I haven't been that hungover for about a year, and I had to go and interview Matthew Vaughn while I was incredibly hungover.
You know what's funny was you said that after, because I told you when I watched it and you said that you were hungover, and I hadn't realized it, but then I went back and I looked at just the thumbnail from that video, and there's just pain behind your eyes, man. Like,
everyone thinks it's admiration, but it's not. It's just I'm just trying to be awake and be a living person. But like, because in the new movie they have got this whole statesman thing with the whiskey and all that sort of stuff. They had a room for the press. Like, they really went all out at this junket. But in one of the rooms was just a whiskey room, and because it was about 11 in the morning, nobody was in there, and there was just this comfy chair there. So I went in there, sat down in the lovely comfy chair, and with my bottle of water, and I was like, I'm just going to stay here until they call my name and try and be, like, alive. And the woman who was behind the desk with all the whiskeys and stuff on it, and all the cocktails that she could make, she was just standing there really politely, and then at one point she turns to me and she goes, "Would you like a drink?" And I went, "Good God, no." I am so hungover right now.
Do you ever have that thing hungover where, like, if you like swish your mouth with, like, mouthwash, it makes you want to throw up? Like, it makes you want to die because it reminds you too much of, like, the burny alcohol-y feeling?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Nick, talk about drugs. On that note, here, this is it. Kingsman 2. The golden... what did you call it?
Agent Cody Banks, the golden compass.
That's funny.
Nick has a whole theory that it's just Agent Cody Banks.
Just Agent Cody Banks.
The same movie.
They've just got an old reel and gone, let's just release this again.
Yeah. Welcome, here we are.
Yeah.
Welcome. Do I need to say it like Tim? I feel so much pressure to do it the way he does.
Can I say it like Tim?
I'm going to try it here. I'm going to do, because he usually goes, "Welcome to Reasonable Beef. I'm your host, Tim Kish." Fuck, I already messed up because that's not, name. I got to do my name. All right, hold on. I'm going to try and also do, like, a different tone. Yeah. Welcome to Reasonable Beef. I'm your host.
Let me tell you something. It's so good that Tim is sick in bed and you're giving him more editing work.
Yeah, how long can we actually just quickly? I'd like to take about 40 minutes and talk about socks. But, like, halfway through, so he can't skip it all, we're going to really get to the heart of what we feel about Kingsman.
Yeah.
And who am I with here today?
Wait, you have to do an intro. That
here we are.
None of that was a good intro, Dom.
Yeah. All right. Welcome to Reasonable Beef. I'm your co-host. I'm the second dude who's here because Tim is dying. He's going to, soon enough he'll be dead and this will all be mine. I'm Dom Farah. Joining me today, who's second in command now?
Nick.
That's right.
Nick Oldershaw is back.
And who's the third guy who we got?
Hello, it's me, Jack Howard, the English guy who comes on here sometimes that's not the other Tim.
English. and pretty apt considering this movie's English. It's super English movie.
Yeah. But we now the second one has combined it with the Americans, so we're equals now, Dominic.
That's a good way to. I like how you said that. I like that you said equals. But really, we know what we're all thinking.
Yeah.
That America wins. I mean, what was the whole
No
point?
matter what.
The whole point of this movie was like, oh, we're English, we're so cool, and then you need our help.
Yeah.
No, but then as we get further into the movie, it's America's very bad.
Pish posh.
I didn't see that bit.
I'm holding on to the first part where they needed to come over here and we helped. I don't know. So what do we think? I feel like this is gonna be one of those ones where I have a hard time because I don't have Venom, but I also don't have like I'm not completely elated by it.
Well, first of all, what did you think of the first movie?
I guess, yeah, that's a good point. I liked the first one, but I haven't seen it since it was out. So I remember like going and thinking and digging it. But funnily enough, like I did leave the first one being like, I wish they could have done without some of the like on purpose gross jokes.
Yeah.
Not the least of
Yeah.
which being the final joke with the princess thing. Like that
we
like
can do it in the
weirded
asshole.
Yeah, it weirded me out so much because it doesn't feel like that's not a clever subversion of the spy trope. That's just like
What if James Bond just went a little bit higher when he fought?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, I spent a while trying to defend that joke because I knew what the intention was. But just because I know what the intention was doesn't mean that it was good or appropriate.
Well, it's like it's one step further than what would be a funny subversion if it was like, she was like, and maybe after you're done, we could get that drink and fuck, like, and you're like, haha, yeah, we get it, like, okay. But yeah, it's just weird. It's that thing we've talked about this now you like Matthew Vaughn, so this is gonna be interesting because I
adore Matthew Vaughn.
I feel very like kind of neutral about him. I don't have negative feelings, but this is that thing of that joke feeling weird and a lot of things in this movie feeling weird because you can feel the hands behind it, and it's the same problem we talk about with Split, where it's like things in any other movie might have just felt like it's just a part in a movie, and these bad things happen to these people. But in this, for some reason, you can feel an intent that I'm not on board with, and that feels gross.
Yes,
I mean,
please say more about that. I know exactly what you're getting at.
I think we're getting at. I mean,
are we talking about the turning point of the movie?
We're talking about the big moment. That's a part of any structure of a movie where two guys have a competition to see who can finger a girl first.
Yes,
and then the camera goes inside of the vagina,
which is like, and I can see the on paper, like, the gag.
I can see the conversation. I can see them saying like, oh my god, it'd be so funny, because usually in these sort of movies you see like inside the bloodstream when like a superhero is becoming like special, like when you see Sandman like turn into sand, or when Spider-Man gets that missing gene. But in this one,
that was
you're
like
inside a
his
cervix.
He's like, no, guys, it's the same thing. It's like when Sandman became, like when we did the sand.
That was like. I actually thought that they weren't going to do, because they had the conversation about the nose as a mucous membrane too, and I thought he was going to have a change of heart and quickly, like, I thought it was going to be like a cute, funny scene, and he was going to like stick his finger up her nose and leave.
That's exactly what Hazel was like. I hope that he leans over and just sticks it in her mouth or something. Like, but no. And also, I feel like there is a way of doing, like, because obviously what they're trying to do there is be like, sometimes in the spy world, you have to sleep with somebody who's a target in order to get information. And that is like a trope of the spy world.
Right.
And there seems to be something in there where they could absolutely make an interesting scene out of it about the thing that he has to do, but he doesn't really want to do it. But the way that they go about it, by making him have a girlfriend who is the girl from the end who had anal sex, who is a character now, I guess, that we care about. Like it just, none of it really felt like it hit for me.
And those are all those things that you almost I say this hesitantly, you almost want to give credit to, but it's so tone deaf or something. It's such a misjudgment of like, I think what he thought he was up to in making the princess then like the girlfriend was like, yeah, like, I know that was like an offensive joke, but look, they fell in love.
That's exactly what I think happened. I think they're like, no one will expect that he's going to be dating her now, and it's like, yeah, but that's not worth it. Like, I know that you're thinking that's a funny idea to start with, but when it's actually executed, we go, I don't really actually give a shit about this princess. Why would I care?
And it also, I think, what doubles down on that was that was the opportunity where she was in the heat of the last adventure. So anything that happens in this one, she should be like, oh, this is again. You're doing this again. And like at first in the beginning, I was sort of like, it was already immediately the weird girlfriend like trope thing. And I was already like, oh, we're just doing this thing again, where it's like he shows up like, oh, if I don't get to that dinner, he might as well have killed me. And it's like, all right, cool, fine. And then he gets there, and I was like, okay, so she knows, right? And she's cool that he goes off and saves the world and stuff. But then they do, which to me feels like such a weird. It feels almost like actively harmful that then there's the scene where he has to try to explain why he needs to sleep with the girl, and then she breaks up with him for it. When it's like, but wait, she knows that he's saving the world. Like,
yeah,
this is the stuff that this is Zod, or this is Superman breaking Zod's neck, where you can argue about the intrinsic logic all over and over and over again, but a lot of the times it comes down to like, yeah, but you wrote Superman breaking the guy's neck, like you were in charge of why you made, you put him in the situation that made him snap someone's neck. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly, yeah. Like they put them in this. You're right. It's exactly the same situation. They've put him in the situation where they've made that a plot point, and then they've gone with it to try and make it like, I don't know, like give him some conflict. Or to make his character sort of more. It's like trying to take a really realistic situation and then like exaggerating it. Right. That's sort of what they're trying to do. The struggles of a real relationship, but he's a spy.
Right.
And it's like, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. I don't buy it.
And I don't know I don't know. It's also just the temperature right now. Like, to me, that's what I feel like tone deaf is probably a good word to use, because it's like, dude, did you seriously not double check yourself on the like, and then we're gonna go into the vagina? It feels super creepy. And even just in how she acts throughout that whole sequence, where you're like, okay, great, oh really, she's charmed by that, and then like, she like drops her nightgown and is in her bra and underwear, and she's like, are you ready to do it? And it's like, oh, this feels so fucking weird. Like, we're doing this, we're up to this again?
It feels like old-fashioned, like in the best way, and I think that they would try and justify it by saying we're referencing that type of movie and we're doing that type of thing, but it's like you're doing a blend of parody, but you're also sort of like commenting on it, but you're also a part of it, and it's like none of it really is landing exactly where you think it will land. And I can see why everyone's got, up in arms about it, and there's so many articles about it. And Taron Egerton as well, the star who plays Eggsy, he has been in several interviews where he's basically said, I don't get excited about that stuff in the Kingsman movies. It's not the stuff that I go into lightly. And if you read between the lines with what he's saying, you can absolutely, gather that he doesn't really like that sort of stuff. And actually, I don't know if you've read about this, but in that scene where the hand goes down her pants, that's not his hand. He said, I don't feel comfortable doing this. I don't feel comfortable doing it. So they got her husband to come and do it. Right. And you can bet on the day he was like, I bet he has some conversations with Matthew Vaughn where he's like, Matthew, I don't really want to be doing this. But he also, I bet, has such a massive, as you would do, a massive amount of respect for Matthew Vaughn, because he's the person who gave him his first film role. He's made him a fucking star. Yeah. So like, you've got to trust that man, but also I guess you have your own set of core values, and I can imagine that really is a big conflict for him.
Totally. All right, so let's step back. All right, so let's look at it as the whole picture. Like, how did you, like, what, so that stuff bothered you? Now, did that like rip it apart for you?
That actually, like, that stuff was not my biggest problem.
Interesting. Okay, yeah.
I think I honestly have been describing the film as a disaster. I think it is just very poorly conceived. Tim H actually told me recently that they were having some struggles apparently in the edit for this one, and I'm like, you probably would, because everything in this movie is sort of a jumble of trying to do something bigger than the last one and also trying to remind you of the last one.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many scenes where they reference the first one.
Yeah.
Like the stuff in the bar, but also lines that come up again, and just certain situations that keep happening that they're trying to remind you of the first one, but also they're trying to go bigger and more bombastic than the first one as well. And bringing back Colin Firth, sure. I sort of went into it being like, I'm excited to see what stupid, silly reason they come up with to bring him back. And the butterfly thing was so bizarre, and killing him, bringing him back. You know, we can talk about how that ruins all the jeopardy and all the sort of the stakes within the world that you're in, because anybody can come back now. But also that ruins for me when you kill other characters that I do like, and I actually don't give a shit in the moment. Like, and also, I could rant about this for a while. Actually,
you're like waiting for Merlin to roll up in the next one with like half a robot
like, lol,
body.
I got away. You didn't realize.
Yeah, right. Exactly. But it's funny.
Also,
I didn't
answer me this as well. Like, if you didn't know that Eggsy was the main character, do you think you would pick him to be the main character in this film? Does it seem like he has the most sort of like obvious arc in this film?
That's a good question.
And that's not me. You know, that's not a loaded question. That is actually a question. Would you pick him to be the main character? Because I think if you're going to bring Colin Firth back, I make Colin Firth the main character, because clearly it's like the reversal of the last film. Rather than Colin Firth teaching him, it's the other way around.
They touch on that a little bit,
right?
But and that's it.
I agree.
They touch on little things, but they never really commit to anything.
That was a big thing I had a problem with too, because there was at some point in the movie, I really thought about it, and I was like, what are we getting at in this? Because I didn't understand what was the... Like, I guess I finally had a slight relief, even though it was, like, obviously super heavy-handed, once they started getting into the drug thing and, like, the way people are like, yeah, whatever, just let them all die, and, like, the president having that opinion on it and everything. I was like, okay, fair enough. At least you're doing something now at this point. But, like, up until then, I was like, what is this about? What is he learning in this? It kind of just felt like a bad episode of something.
Yeah, it kept
exactly.
It kept almost being about things, and then it would be about something. It was like the longest second act, I think, in any movie in recent memory.
Yeah, it really bothered me as well at the end when, like, the double entendre for the title of the movie, The Golden Circle, was Eggsy getting married at the end. And it's like, if you wanted to make the movie about commitment, like, if you wanted that to be
totally,
you know, the arc of you know, and the theme that most characters, you know, go through, I would totally be up for that. That sounds like a great... And then when the reveal was that the Golden Circle was also, you know, meant the wedding rings, that would have been a wonderful little reveal. But, like, nothing ever commits to that that theme of commitment.
No, of course not.
At any point. So, like, when it happens, it doesn't mean anything. And you just see the Golden Circle and you go, haha, yeah, the Golden Circle, that's also a ring. Like, it doesn't mean anything when you see it.
I guarantee you that went over 90% of the audience's head, too.
Yeah. But that's, like, even how you just said it is more succinct. I mean, it definitely wasn't up to that. It was absolutely not up to that. But even that, like, annoyed me, that plot point where, like, she says, was that a proposal? Because I was like, oh my God, this is so fucking, like, really? Is this how we're gonna treat? Like, that's that character's role still in this. Fuck, I don't know, dude. That kind of stuff bugs me. Especially in something that's taken such a stance of, like, oh, we're gonna be subversive,
do things differently and be fresh. This is what I mean. Like, in the first movie, they make such a big deal out of, like, doing things in a different way and subverting your expectations. They even point blank say this is not that kind of movie. Like, they make it clear. And then in this film, it feels like they go, oh, actually, we do need to be that sort of movie. Like, we do need to do that. We need to blend in a little bit more.
Did you notice?
It bugs me.
Did you notice that the Avengers theme is in this movie about 70 times? I guess it must be just. It must just be a similar little riff in the Kingsman theme, but so many times it went ba ba ba, and it kept like
Right.
it kept, and every single time I think it's in the same key because every time it did it, I was like, "What the fuck are they?"
No, I didn't notice that. You're
I
very
also
good.
really
You've got a very
dislike
good
the music.
ear for music in this sort of thing. You noticed the thing about the Vultures theme being a flip. Of
Oh
that
yeah.
as well.
That's a whole other rant. There's so much about it. I guess like I feel so jumbled about how I feel about it. I guess because the movie was so jumbled. Like it's hard to kind of even follow a thread and be like, yes, that's the core of what
Okay,
the
well
movie
let's
is.
pick
Like,
certain things then. Okay, you were just talking about the music, so let's talk about you say
the
you
music
don't like
almost,
it.
it's like a symptom of the larger thing too, which is that whole like it just felt. See, I don't love Matthew Vaughn. I don't love at least the style of fighting in this. Like I think I liked it more in the first Kingsman because I think it felt I don't know what the word is. It felt a little more like real or textured in a way, and in this from the get-go, from the first sequence, as cool as it was, and it was cool, it was super cool to watch, the like robot arm guy fight in the taxi and they're like swerving and he's flying out the door. I was like, honestly, that whole first sequence I was like, all right, this is pretty, like, this is cool.
Yeah, like exactly. When it
we're
started, I was
doing
like,
really-
Kingsman, yay, look at this, they're having fun.
We're doing this really weird sequence. Just got a robot arm. Cool. But like, it does feel weirdly enough, for as much as it's trying to be like boom, pow, boom, boom, and punchy, it almost feels glossy. It feels like it's like a CGI sort of thing. But
Mark Kermode, a reviewer in the UK, he described that opening sequence with the taxi. He said that reminded me of the night bus sequence in Harry Potter. It all just felt really magical, rather than like an action scene.
And I think that,
and I was
like,
that's perfect. That's a perfect way of putting it.
And that is like another thing, like in the music. What I was getting at was that it's sort of the same sentiment echoed in that the music. There's something about the way that it sounded that felt so overproduced and clean in a like computery way. And I don't think it was fake instruments or anything, but I think that there was just something about it that was so unappealing. And I think I maybe feel that way about the aesthetic of the whole thing. Because you know what, and you know why that annoys me is like I'm so into just people in suits and they're smoking and sipping on whiskeys. Like that aesthetic is just, I mean, cool. I feel like you'd have a hard time arguing that isn't kind of cool, at least when it's done right. And yet for some reason in this it feels like empty or something, and like just kind of.
I know what you mean. It's got no edge to it.
know.
Like it's when because like I said, I love Matthew Vaughn. I think that Matthew Vaughn has. I mean, I say this quite a lot, but I think he has such passion behind what he does.
And I can feel that. Yeah.
In this, though, I couldn't really feel it. It felt to me like he was almost playing the hits a little bit and going, I think this will work, and I think this will work.
Totally.
But like when he made Kick-Ass, like that movie is like up there for me. Like it's absolutely, I think, in my top 5, just because I love the film anyway, and I did like. I mean, I remember seeing it for the first time in the cinema and absolutely like losing my mind over it. About like where it was just so unpredictable to me, but it all just felt like really fresh. And it was also a movie before its time, because now Deadpool's out and everyone loves the sort of self-aware stuff, but like Kick-Ass was doing that in 2010. But anyway, like in the behind the scenes of that movie, like if you do a bit of research about why it was made and how it was made, there is so much like just love behind wanting to make it. And then when they proved that they could do that, he got the job to do X-Men literally straight away. And then when you watch X-Men, you're like, oh man, he's making a Bond movie. He's making a 60s Bond movie, but they're X-Men, and he's making Magneto like James Bond. He's making the cool guy the evil guy. And like all the scenes that he has with him, where like he's intimidating a bank manager, or he's going to that Argentinian bar, and he's trying to find out where the guy who killed his mother is. Like all those scenes are fantastic, and the music by Henry Jackman in those scenes is fantastic as well, because they work together to find like something that really feels right. Whereas in this now, the first Kingsman felt like it was completely fresh, obviously, but in this one now, it feels almost like they're going, yeah. It's almost like when they made Spectre, that they were going, okay, this worked in Skyfall, let's do the same sort of thing we did in Skyfall. The music was the same as Skyfall. You know, we shoot it similar to that. This felt the same way, that like, okay, this worked last time we did it in Kingsman. Let's do more of those fights where it feels like it's in one take, but it's really melded together with CG.
Yeah.
But none of it came to the standard of the church fight. Not even close.
Yeah, my whole feeling with this movie is like, it is like, I mean, on some level it is like bad in a spectacular way. Like I was in the theaters like, I have no idea what's going to happen next, but it got to a point where like, it's like, okay, it's very over the top, but it stopped feeling genuine. It felt very, very hollow.
Like yes, that is a great way of putting it.
Yeah. The Elton John thing was when I was kind of like, oh, come the fuck on.
Yeah, you know what?
That was really bothering me.
It was so weird, and I was so off of it until there was a point at the end. I think it's maybe when he leans in front of the dog and is smiling, where it at that point it stepped over the line enough for me that I was like, this is insane. Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
And then they took such joy in saying "kill Elton John," like it was an in-joke we all got.
Yeah,
and I was like, that's not that funny. Like, this joke was kind of funny once, and then you just kept doing it.
Yeah, it almost felt like Bill Murray in Zombieland, but like the gaudiest version of that. You know what I mean?
Bill Murray in Zombieland is genius.
Yeah, no, of course.
Like, it's such a brilliant sequence. But like, yeah, okay. So I've got a couple of things I want to bring up.
Yes.
So on the Elton John thing, I think that it's actually a perfect sort of example of what's happened to this. I think that all the sort of postmodern, clever, sort of subversive stuff has been massively diluted and replaced with Elton John saying fuck a lot. Like, that is, that's the
I agree.
shift.
Yeah, completely, dude.
That is
Absolutely.
the shift. So, okay. Julianne Moore is an incredible actress. Mm-hmm. She's obviously not working with very much, but she's not very good in this.
No.
But like, also, can we talk about her introduction scene where we meet two henchmen that are on screen for a decent amount of the first act of the movie that are not important whatsoever? And I know they're setting up Julianne Moore, I know they're setting up the Golden Circle, but there's two characters there that get a lot of screen time that are not important at all. How have Matthew Vaughn and Jane Goldman, two massively experienced screenwriters and filmmakers, made that mistake?
Well, wait,
that's so strange to me.
Can I piggyback off that? Because
please do.
To a further extent, like all the promotion for this, even the beginning of this movie would have you believe that Channing Tatum and Jeff Bridges are in this movie. They are not. Like, I didn't understand, and I guess there was like a scheduling conflict. I read that, but like we get that great Channing Tatum introduction, and then we're basically introduced to a new character who like does the same shit as him.
That's what this felt like. A lot of reverse engineering in a way that doesn't work. It's the vagina tracker scene make no mistake. That's because he sat down and wanted to do that. Like, all the reasons they give for, I mean, it's all just because he was like, oh, you know, what's funny is if he needs to finger her because that's to how he has to get to the next.
Yeah, because usually, like they you know, in spy movies, they're like, oh, we can just place a tracker on them, or we can put a tracker in the liquid. In the first one, he says, I laced the wine with a tracker. We'll be following, you know, his movements for the next few days. But in this one, they were like, yeah, you're right, Dom. Like, I think it'll be really funny if we make it so that he has to do this. That is really where that came from, without a doubt.
And then they give all the reasons, like, well, it needs to go in through a mucous membrane and it harmlessly circulates in the thing so we can hear the shit. Dude, if you like know where she's at, why aren't you being a spy who has all these cool things and just like what do you, I don't know, like that's the stuff, and you're not supposed to look far into that stuff because of the kind of world that they're weaving here. You're supposed to just be like, haha, cool gadgets and funny.
Yeah, I know that, but like they do have an internal logic, and
of course,
Matthew Vaughn as well works with stuff on a grounded level and then works up. And in this one, he does so many things that don't make sense. So you've already introduced a world where like trackers don't have to be done that way, and we've seen gadgets that, you know, in the first film, one of the first things we see is Colin Firth puts his hand on Taron Egerton's shoulder, and then later that turns out to be not only a tracker but a microphone. So there's so much stuff that they already do have.
Yeah.
So
and also, Mark Strong's character does not need to die there. If they can invent some sort of magic gel that brings people back from the dead, there is no doubt in my mind that they absolutely have a gadget that can help them disarm a mine. Like,
yeah, dude, what the
internal
how about
logic
a rock?
of the film doesn't make sense.
That whole scene, that was one of those weird times where I was like, can they just like
Put anything else on it?
Put a rock on it, or like put some sand in their shoe and leave the shoe on? Like,
anything.
That would be, but that would actually be an interesting scene. Like, I would have rather maybe watched that.
Which is what I thought it was about to become. I thought that was going to be, now we have to try to be quiet and not get this,
because that's a fun that's a subversion in itself, because you're expecting, and especially from the trailers and stuff, you're expecting the Kingsman sequel to, how's it going to go bigger, how's it going to be louder, how's it going to be sillier, right. But if they had if one of the most memorable scenes in it was like a quiet scene that was funny and tense,
how do we
where
get
they were trying to like
the shoe?
stop a mine, like I would be like, that's fucking amazing, like I can't believe you've done that.
It
but
does.
I'll tell you what, this is the biggest problem, I think. It doesn't surprise you. There is nothing in this film that you wouldn't expect to see in this film.
Yeah, well, I mean, I will say that I was in disbelief. I mean, I definitely saw shit I did not expect to see in this movie, but not in a good way.
Yeah. It's funny, too. Like, I feel like with Mark Strong, with Merlin dying, like, you're kind of like... I think that was another weird reverse engineering thing where they were like, well, we have brought all these people back, and, like, clearly you can get shot in the head and you're okay. We gotta kill someone because otherwise no one's gonna think anything matters. And it's like, yeah, but you missed the first part where you told us it doesn't matter when people die. So when you kill this guy, it's not gonna... Like, I can see what they were thinking. They were like, well, this can't be without sacrifice. There needs to be some sort of price that they pay at the end of this.
But on the killing people thing as well, like...
Why did...
It really bothered me that they killed... like everybody at the start.
Yeah, like, what the fuck, man?
Like I mean, I don't want to start like interpreting this in ways, but like it did feel to me like, oh, actually our first film was really successful and now we've got more money, so I actually just want to kill off this and now we can have this be a big American franchise and we can get all the big American actors in this. That's what it felt like to me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think then look at the ending. They put, Channing Tatum's...
Put Channing Tatum in a dumb hat.
Yeah, that was a really dumb hat. Honestly, one of my biggest problems with this movie was that fucking hat.
That was when I stood up and I said, I can't take this anymore. Because then the movie ended.
Did he think he looked like, when they put the hat on, was he like, hell yeah? Or did they put the hat on and he was like,
I think that was them doing a joke. That was them absolutely being like, haha, Channing Tatum is British now. But it's like, that's not that funny.
No.
It gets maybe one of those little nose laughs where you force air out of your nose. Yeah. But nothing more than that.
Yeah.
It's a gag with a character who I truly know nothing about.
Exactly.
Like, why do I care about him?
Well, he's the
I
bad
said this
boy,
on my
Didn't you listen?
on my vlog about it. Like I did like a review rant on my YouTube channel, and one of the things I said about the casting was that it felt like they were casting for the poster, not for the film. Like,
that's very true.
Everybody said that like they want Channing Tatum to be in this movie, but we can only get 3 days with him, so we'll do one scene, we'll make him go to sleep, and then we'll wake him up at the end.
Right. And this is
we'll make him go to sleep.
This is the whole. I mean, again, we're circling around the same problem across this whole movie, which is like, all right, there's a surface level want, and they, it feels like they're trying to catch up with that want at every turn. It's like, well, we kind of want this scene and like this kind of thing, and like we sort of want like, she like likes the 50s. I guess she's like a 50s mother bad guy.
But what is that?
And then
what the fuck is that?
Good question. And then at the I don't fucking.
I've got a question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
What is the golden circle?
Ah, Jesus
That's
Christ.
a great question there, Jack. Yeah, I don't know, man.
All I know is that it's like a team of people she has that they get tattooed in platinum, in like actual gold, an actual golden circle on them. But I don't actually know what the golden circle is.
What does it mean to her? Yeah.
You know what annoyed me? Yeah, about that. They get the golden circle tattoo thing, and then who's the first person? I don't even remember. They like find someone who has it, and that's how they learn about it, right? But then you know what annoyed me was when we were suspecting the American guy, when we were suspecting Whiskey, I was like, oh, he's gonna like pull his shirt down or
And
something.
we'll see it.
And
Yes,
we're going to see
exactly.
the golden circle, and that's going to be our proof. And instead, he just like shoots him in the head, and he's like, you know what? I could explain to you all of these things, but I'm just going to be quiet. And then you're gonna lie for me because we want the next scene to happen.
Because that also didn't make sense. Because I guess his motivation for letting everyone die was because of his wife was crossfire, 2 meth heads or whatever. But so like, did he decide when he found out about the golden circle that he was gonna let her? Had he been working with her? It was very unclear.
Yeah, it was just like it was just one of those boring storylines where the good guy turns out to be the bad guy, and we're not really sure why, but that's the case.
You know what annoyed me too about that was that I was hoping because I only saw the first one when it was out, but wasn't that like the thing of that they find out that like is it Michael Caine's like evil or whatever?
Yeah,
and
Michael
it's like,
Caine is, and that's a decent bit.
Of course.
Because also, I think they do a decent job in the first one as well of actually, and this doesn't happen very much, but when a villain wants to destroy the world, it's very, very difficult to buy into that. But I think they did a really good job with like Valentine, who is Samuel L. Jackson's character, going, we need to have a cull because we're making the planet sick. And I think that like if we're a powerful person and you said that to enough people, I think enough people would buy it. And I think that enough rich and powerful people would be, yeah, okay, if you're not going to kill me, then by all means do it. Like I genuinely buy that would happen. Anyway, carry on, Dom.
I'm gonna start knocking door to door and suggesting that.
Hi, by the way, so I was just thinking because I wanted to would you want to kill everybody?
I want to get rid of everyone. Not you. Can I use your pool?
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I guess you're expecting that because of the first movie. Like, what kind of stupid? Like, that's not
like how
fun
did they
every
when they were
time.
pitching it with each other, when they were sitting in the room and being like, and then the good guy turns out to be the bad guy again? How did they not go, well, we've already done that,
we just
and
did
haven't
that.
a lot of movies done that? Like, how would you honestly write that and not be like, yeah, I bet they wrote it and went, we'll come back to that later, and then they were like, you know what, I actually don't mind it, let's just keep it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting more frustrated the more because I left so like, bleh, like whatever. Like by the end of the movie, I was like, I guess I liked it. Like I don't know. I guess there was enough in the action scenes and it like fine. I felt like I left and I was like, yeah, it was fine. Like, but the more I'm like thinking about it, the more kind of offended I am by its sensibilities and every decision it made.
Yeah, like when it finished, I like knew when it was on that I didn't like it, and I knew that was a shame. But I was like, okay, just go with it anyway. See if there's anything fun you can have with it, even if it's not going to be nowhere near as good as the first one. Let's just see if you can get something out of it. But it finished, and I was like, yeah, it was really bad. And then I said to Hazel, it was really bad, wasn't it? And she was like, oh my god, I'm so glad you said that because I was worried I was going to have to lie to you and say yes, I had a lot of fun, but it was really, 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 really bad. And then the more and more time that went past, it was like I'm getting angrier now. I think I'm going through the stages of grief. But like at first. I was really, really sad. Like, I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Like, I felt properly disappointed. Not like, oh, that was a bit a shame that it wasn't as good as the first one. Like, I champion Matthew Vaughn. I think he's actually fantastic. And this felt almost like it's obviously not. And I don't know why my emotions took it this way, but it felt like a fucking personal insult. I was like, dude, like, I've been holding you up and you just made such a huge misstep. What was that? Like, I felt properly upset.
It almost, and I agree, like Matthew, he's had a pretty good filmography up to this point. This movie feels like it's fueled by blind confidence.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Brilliant way of putting it. That's what exactly. That's why I mean, going back to comparing it to Spectre. Like, I mean, I was lucky enough to talk to both Matthew Vaughn and to Sam Mendes for those respective films. And Sam Mendes absolutely came across like he had blind confidence because he admitted to me that he changed the film halfway through. Like, he filmed, a good portion of it and then said, actually, I want to change the third act. And he drastically changed it. And I was like, I'm not in the meeting, obviously, but I was like, you can fucking tell. And this one, when I'm speaking to Matthew Vaughn, like, he just seems to have all this sort of like, doesn't really like. I've seen interviews with him before, and he didn't really feel like he had much new to say, or like he'd learned something, or that like he tried something out. That like everyone who's interviewing him about this movie is talking about the first one. Is talking about how amazing the swimming pool, not the swimming pool scene, but the water scene is, or how amazing the church fight is, or whatever. And yeah, you're right. It's this blind confidence that like I'm making a fun movie, and making a fun movie is hard, and making something fun is harder than making something dramatic. And I was like, I don't really agree with you, Matthew.
I am always disappointed. I feel like for some reason the majority of the world, it feels like people don't like sequels. Like people are already like, and I say that I feel like most people, I feel like the general consensus is like when they say they're making another one of a thing, people are like, oh no, like they're gonna mess it up. It's just like sequels are always bad. It's never as good as the first one or whatever. But every time I hear about a sequel, I'm excited. It literally doesn't even matter if I didn't really like the first, or I kind of liked the first one. I'm just so excited by the prospect of getting to do more with the same characters, and like, oh, you had no idea we were gonna go this way, and you're gonna go back and watch the first movie and be like, they didn't even fucking know. They had no idea what was coming. And that I'm like so jazzed by that. So even like going into this, I was like, well, I'm excited. Like, what are we gonna do? What are we up to? Like, it's a brand new. And then even in the trailers, you're like, whoa, they're gonna like step one of this movie is blow up the Kingsman.
Yes,
okay.
Exactly. Yeah, I was so
status
fucking
quo shift, man.
hyped
Weird.
by
Like,
that.
okay.
Yeah, like it felt to me like they were gonna go for the darker, sort of more Empire Strikes Back-esque thing where they like fuck everything up and he's left with nothing. But it wasn't that. It was, you gonna go and visit the Americans now.
Somehow, and it feels glossier. There's a version of this movie, same plot, same exact plot points. I wouldn't go so far as to say the same script, but the same shit happens. And under a... with an actively, like with them, I feel like if he had tried to make it feel different than the first one, like went out of his way, he's like, all right, we're gonna like, the fights are gonna still be insane, but this is our sophomore one. We're gonna, it's like, it's maturing a little bit. It's still gonna be bonko, but we're not.
Because you haven't really, like, they haven't really given Eggsy, they haven't really given him any lessons to learn in this one.
No,
it just felt like
easily
he was like,
no.
following like blindly.
When they keep digging it, like I thought in the beginning, like, because once the Kingsmen are blown up and everything, I'm thinking, because they kept drilling in, you know, you don't have the right to have an emotional reaction yet. You can, but not now. You're not allowed. And I'm like, okay, interesting. And then it came up again, like someone else said something similar, and they were like, check your emotions. Like he says, like, remember your training, and like, you know, you have to check your emotions. And I kept thinking, like, there were all, again, this is, we're coming back to, again, of puzzle pieces that could have been put together in a really pretty picture of that he's already lying to the Kingsman. He's got a girlfriend, right? He's got a relationship, and that's like against the rules. Remember? I didn't think of that until the end, until he said it to Colin Firth, where he's like, I know, I'm breaking the rules or whatever. As you said, this commitment thing. This is the idea that he's afraid of like completely giving himself to something. We're in the sequel. What the whole first movie was, I want to belong in this group. I got picked. Am I the best spy? I bet you better believe it. And then the second one could have completely been with all of these other pieces. I don't know if I agree. I don't know if I want to be part of this. I don't know if I want, like, I don't know if I'm ready to give my whole life to this thing that I wanted so badly.
And it's like, dude, trade all the fucking Elton John scenes.
Yeah, that was there was so much time.
That was the thing, right? I watched the first Kingsman the other day. I mean, I literally came back, and I've since then I've watched X-Men First Class, and I've watched Kingsman, the Secret Service, because I'm like, oh yeah, he makes great movies. I'm reminding myself, but there are so many quiet scenes in the first film that feel like you're following a proper character story. Like it is My Fair Lady. Yeah. That's what they're doing. They're doing the modernized My Fair Lady.
Oh yeah.
And Cody Banks.
It's just Cody Banks.
But like there are so many scenes where like they just have conversations, and there are so many like scenes that aren't just played for jokes or aren't subverted, or like they play some things earnestly, and that's fine. Whereas this film doesn't feel like it takes anything seriously whatsoever. And then when it tells you to take something seriously, like when Merlin sings before he dies, when it tells you to take that seriously, you sort of go, I don't really feel comfortable taking it seriously because nothing else has been serious so far. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
And you like that though, like in a vacuum, you like that.
I
scene,
did.
Right,
I
Nick?
will say, like, I was out of the movie. I was like, and then that scene, weirdly, I was like, because I think Merlin actually, I was the most attached to him. I thought he had
Merlin's
more chemistry.
great.
than Eggsy and fucking Colin Firth did.
That was the thing, is that I don't understand why they wanted to bring back Colin Firth other than the star power, and obviously the chemistry between them was great in the first film. But you could have absolutely built upon the chemistry from the third act between Eggsy and Merlin. Because the big famous line, you know, the one that's obviously taken from Trading Places, is the looking good Eggsy, feeling good Merlin. And it's like they're starting to build a chemistry now. Like, build on that. They would be fine. Like, you don't need to bring someone back from the dead. Like, that was so bad. So badly done. Somebody's pointed out that it feels a little bit like Men in Black 2, where like, oh, we need to bring back, you know, Tommy Lee Jones, but he's forgotten everything, so we need to remind him of everything.
Yeah, Jesus.
That is, yeah. It was. I really felt that like their chemistry was gone in this movie completely from the first one.
Do we want to say things that we did? Is there? Can you salvage some stuff you dug about it?
Like some stuff I liked.
Yeah, because of course there's always pieces. I liked robot dogs. I mean, I feel like everything I'm gonna say though, it is surface level, and honestly, by design, I think the movie, what it deserves in giving credit to, it's all going to be surface level because it wasn't up to anything else. Yeah. I think on purpose. I don't think it really like wanted you to like ever cry or have some sort of big emotional punch. I think it just was sort of like, and you're just excited when Colin Firth gets his memories back. I don't think it's supposed to be like, but I will say,
I don't know if I agree with that, dude, because those scenes are definitely played for like, I think they're trying to genuinely emotional.
I think it's just a muddled tone. I think that, I mean, even speaking to Matthew Vaughn, he was like, I do everything emotionally on a grounded level, because even when something ridiculous is happening, you have to care. And I don't think he achieved that in this film. I think he always has, but I don't think there was anything rooting me in this film. I guess genuinely, when you ask that question, is there anything you liked about it? I don't think so. I genuinely think that everything that I could have liked about it was done better already in the first film, and so they reference things like the bar fight, they reference things like the underwater stuff,
which also,
and all of that was done better in the first film. I genuinely don't think I've taken anything away from it and been like, yeah, that was a great scene, or that was a great moment.
And those are all the sequel. Historically, the sequel mistakes. So it is frustrating, as you said, like when you see someone as vetted as Matthew Vaughn, like make that mistake where it's like, no, you don't do that. That's the thing you avoid is just revisiting the same sequences or the same plot points, because that's when people don't like it. You're supposed to just go some weird ass direction and like kind of blow people's minds a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, that's why the potential of blowing up the Kingsman. Yeah, that was like that was a good starting point. Like, oh shit, like they've lost everything. Like,
and then it sort of doesn't matter either. That's the other thing that happened. Like, that's why the statesman thing is even more frustrating, because it's like, all right, so you have nothing. Your whole agency's gone. There's no infrastructure anymore across the world. All the Kingsmen are dead.
Yeah, and I think I feel like we're jumping around a little bit, but just something you said earlier, Dom, has now come back into my head, which is that, like you said, that Eggsy gets told in the first act, like, you're not allowed to feel about this yet. You can't get emotional about this yet. But I don't think there's any moment where he's allowed. Like, that felt to me like, I didn't even think about it until now, but that felt to me that they were setting up. Like, okay, he's going to go through it, and then by the end he'll be allowed to grieve.
Well, what happens? Or even
that, like, he'll tell the Kingsmen that they're wrong, and that's not the way that they should treat people.
Yeah,
or something, but nothing comes of it.
I felt that beat was actually just setting up the gag where they get drunk. Like, I thought
that's all it was, which is annoying. That's why that's frustrating, because then they cry together and like, or you know, I guess Merlin cries. You know what's interesting too? You're making me realize these are just all of those like unpopped kernels that we're looking at here, all at the bottom of the pot. Buttery and salted up, never reaching their potential.
I love your metaphors.
Well, I'm hungry. There's like the parallel too as well of like, because I like what you just said of imagining at the end, you know, Eggsy is like, no, you're wrong. You know, we should be acting emotional. Like, we should be allowed to act on that stuff because it sometimes can make you stronger, whatever. And not to like, hopefully this is not like an insulting statement, but I think that there could have been something to be farmed there in the like American versus English relationship of like when he goes to America and he sees these like, and to a fault, you know, emotional and proud.
Yeah,
like,
you're right.
You know,
there's something there that they do everything based on emotion, and the British are much more stiff upper lip.
Exactly.
Like, if they're going on that stereotype, say something about it. Don't just do
Totally.
it.
Totally.
Yeah,
And
really,
and
really
then
good.
that's not really ever harvested as a thing.
Okay, I thought of one thing that I did like about the movie, but
ahead,
also
great.
it is a soured thing because Channing Tatum's not in it very much at all. But I really enjoyed his introduction scene. I really, really enjoyed that sort of like, that's where you got them fans looking suits y'all got on there, and then fan looking spectacles. Like I loved all that sort of like southern, like.
Is Channing Tatum here?
Is that it?
I like that stuff because it reminded me a little bit of like the way that Brad Pitt acts in like Inglourious Bastards.
Yeah,
it felt
yeah, sure.
to me like that type of like fun, sort of like warm, but a little bit cocky, southern, like cowboy.
I have a weird thing
but
with
then they do
him.
nothing with it.
I have a weird thing with him though. He's one of those guys who I hit across the board am watching act. I never like.
Interesting.
Do you know what I mean? So that
No. I know exactly because I don't have it with Channing Tatum, but I definitely have it with certain people. I have that with Dane DeHaan.
Yeah, we talked about this.
yeah.
Dane DeHaan, for sure. You're like watching, like you're up to stuff, and I know it.
Yeah.
Hey, you're not really like that guy at all, are you?
Yeah.
All right. It's a bummer. Like I always like feel guilty for some reason when there's one that just sort of unanimously like we didn't like, and I don't think I would ever trash it. Like I don't think I could ever tell someone like it's complete like there's nothing you're gonna watch. Like maybe I don't know. I feel like if this was just on, if the eventually when this is on FX, and if you're kind of just watching it on TV and
I think that like maybe what they've done is that they have maybe intentionally dumbed it down to make it more of a general audience movie, whereas before it was absolutely like a big art house film. Like, well, not an art house film, but like it didn't give
I know
a
what you
fuck.
mean. I know what you mean.
It
Yeah.
didn't give a fuck.
It's weird. I mean, it is like, I don't know. On some level, like I mean, it's crazy. This movie is fucking insane. Not
It's
in
weird.
a way.
It's a weird film.
And on some level, I love I love like weird blockbusters. I love big budget weird movies. But even this like lost me. I was like, I don't. This intent doesn't feel good.
I'll tell you what it is because you've seen it. You've seen it before and you've seen it better, and also because some of the stuff is boring, like, and it doesn't.
Yeah, you're kind of just waiting and like.
Yeah, it's just not good.
What was
isn't good.
Like, see, these are the like, and also just story wise stuff that bugs me, stuff that his story will always bug me. Is he goes in to get the antidote or whatever, they get it, and like the guy, and like the way that they have the whole sequence of them escaping with the antidote. And then I understand the idea of like, oh, and then they lose it. Like we went through all that. And then like the darkest moment is that the antidote breaks and now we're really fucked. But it's not really played that way. It's played frivolously as if, well, yeah, it didn't matter. Like, forget that scene. Like because it's not even like when it breaks. I know they do like the big close up, and it breaks and everything. But that didn't.
But it's just aesthetic, like the rest of the movie.
It didn't feel like that was like, oh no.
Yeah, like I had a moment when they were like, oh, that means we've got to go back up there and get more, and I was like, really? What? And then that's not important at all.
Blows it up.
Yeah, and
then what was
something
that
Matthew
about?
Vaughn has done really well, I think. Like in big movies, when the big plan is to, is to show that all of the world is affected by something, I think that Matthew Vaughn has done a very, very good job in the past. Like for example, in the first Kingsman, when the signal has gone out and everyone's being aggressive and hurting each other, it shows like center of London, it shows New York, it shows people on a beach in Brazil, I think, all fighting each other, and it's sort of just fun. But then it always cuts back to Eggsy's mum going after his little baby sister. And that always grounded it emotionally. And in this film, they haven't got the grounded emotional bit. They've just got all the stuff of like people being put in cages in a stadium.
Well, they try with the girlfriend. They tried to have
try with the
princess.
girlfriend, but like we don't give a fuck about that girlfriend at all. Like, and that's a failed attempt, I think. But like nothing in it, I think, grounds you in an emotional sort of fashion. I think all of it is too outlandish. All of it is too out there. Yeah. And another word that came up that described it, I think, that's something that Matthew Vaughn has never been. It feels naff. It all just feels a bit. It feels a bit Agent Cody Banks. Like the first Kingsman almost felt a little bit like the punk, but it felt a bit classy in a weird way. Whereas this film had no class to it. It just felt like bleh. Just a bit like that.
No. I feel like my biggest, as every time we keep talking about it, because I can like, it's weirdly enough, and I'm not usually in this camp. I'm weirdly enough on the side of like just kind of digging the fights sometimes. As much as I was like, I was sort of bored and I was annoyed that it wasn't good and that it wasn't getting like the plot itself was kind of dumb and like it wasn't engaging me even with what they were trying to do. But I was still like fine when things would start to happen, and you know, there's like a million cases of magical technology that, again, as you said, like it's not grounded in anything, and I was like, oh well, whatever. But I think I honestly, like, I keep coming back to even Julianne Moore. There's like a huge glaring, and I don't usually like want to make such a big point about it, but like there's a glaring female problem in the whole movie, like literally with every single character. Not the like off from the in the beginning. I thought Lancelot, what's her name, Roxy? I thought she was coming back. I was like, oh well, she, you know, we saw her run out of the room because she got into the bunker or whatever. She's fine, right?
Maybe in the third one.
She probably fucking did.
If she fucking comes back, I'm gonna be like, fuck off.
Then where was she the whole adventure when we were doing this? Like, come on.
I hid in the closet.
That annoyed me because the ending of the other one where it was like, oh, sick, cool, like. The girl, the one who was because wasn't the whole thing, she was like basically just as good as he was, right?
Exactly, yeah. She basically, she had her own, she was like maybe a C character, but she had this whole thing that was never ever outwardly said, where she was afraid of heights, and at the end she was very integral, and she had to go to space, and then she falls from that great height, and she achieves it, and she has a character arc, but it's a very very small one, and she gets to be Lancelot. She wins. She's the one who becomes the new Kingsman. Yeah,
and then they're like, well, now she's dead.
And I felt that they kind of tried to do that with Halle Berry in this movie, but she just had an arc that we didn't see at all. And then at the end,
in one scene, she goes, "I want to be a field agent," and at the end they go, "You can be a field agent," and we're like, "What? We're supposed to cheer for her?" Like that was nothing.
And that stuff's more offensive than if you. And this is a weird thing to say as like a dude, but I would almost rather have I'd rather be able to complain that there are no female characters. I know maybe that's a stupid position to take, but like it's almost more offensive to me when they start doing that stuff where you can feel that he thinks he's doing the right thing and he thinks that he's making some progressive point. Like even in Julianne Moore as the villain, you can tell that it's like he thinks that's a strong like female character. Like, oh, she's such a good character because she's weak, like because she's this creepy.
But like 50s. You know that he wanted Jeff Bridges to be the leader of the Statesman, but why not make Julianne Moore the leader of the Statesman? Like, why not make the leader of the Statesman a woman?
Yeah.
Like, or you've got, you know, I know you've got the ability, and I know you're making the president of the United States an asshole in this, and the woman is the one who's being like, not everyone's perfect, and you shouldn't make all these brash decisions. But why?
Right, honestly, yeah, she was the best female character in the thing.
She was absolutely, but she almost felt like she was coming in for the day.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But like, why not make you've got a movie where you're making things up and you're making things, you know, however you want them to be. Why not make the president a woman? Yeah, I had this problem as well in the first film that like, and I think the movie is making a point, but when he first arrives at Kingsman, the whole movie is about like times change and don't have fucking a stick up your arse and don't be a snob. But like when he arrives, all of the Kingsman tryouts are white men except for Roxy. And I was like, could one of them not have been black, Matthew? And I know that you're trying to make a point that like, you know, you got these old-fashioned men who are putting forward these sort of like new versions of themselves, which are essentially just these white sort of upper class men who go to Oxford and Cambridge, and you know, and they're all very, very, very proper. But like, you could probably have still made that same point, but even if one of them was black.
Oh, totally.
I don't know.
I
like,
agree.
It's just, I don't know. Like,
well, those are those weird things that, and we got to wrap it up here a little, but those are those things that I think we're also, what we keep circling in is that there's just like an intrinsic sort of issue with the movie. There's ideology problems with it. There's when they sat down conceptually what they wanted to do. There's like an issue with just the plan for the movie because he didn't sit down. He wanted to just kind of do the same thing again. So I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I talked about it a little bit again in the review I did on my channel, but like just briefly here, like the first Kick-Ass and Kingsman movies, they start out in the first and second acts by sort of referencing other properties, and they're sort of constantly poking at or referencing or critiquing, you know, superhero movies or spy movies, that sort of thing throughout. But by the third act, that referencing stops and it just exists as its own story, because both the character and the film have evolved to sort of stand shoulder to shoulder. And it's a great thing to watch. It's a wonderful journey to put somebody on, especially, you know, in today's cinema, that because we're so literate of film, that when that character is also, like, it makes you feel very, very similar to them, because they're nerds like you and whatever, and they like the same thing you do. But by the end, they've sort of transcended and become one of those movie stars. They've become an actual huge sort of iconic thing. But by the time the sequel starts, they're already there. They've already made it. They're already another superhero. They're already another spy. So what do you do with them? There's no journey to take them on. Like, that's why the sequels are already fundamentally flawed from the start.
But of course, there's ways to make that stuff work. I don't know.
Absolutely, man. There is. There's absolutely a way to go.
That's like I just keep circling back on the, like, and you know what it is? Honestly, it's because of the vagina tracker scene. That's like why I feel like I've said, like, it basically invited me to really, as we should, to really look at all the female characters in the movie. And then when it's like, when you set yourself up on that platform of like, hey, there's a whole plot point about a fingering scene, you're like, well, now we're gonna look pretty hard at how the rest of these girls are treated.
Absolutely, and that's totally right. But I think as well, another way you could have solved that is that you make the whole thing about like him having to do that to her, but then later on in the movie you reveal that she planted something on his dick.
I was about to say, I wanted to, or if we know in that whole sequence that both of them are up to that. Yeah. That they're, like, we've seen, you know, that she has her plan. She's got to get it where, like, that's funny. That's a really weird scene where it's just two people trying to, like, stick their fingers in each other.
Yeah. But also, you know, that is, I don't even know which Austin Powers movie it is. I think it's the second movie. I think it's the second Austin Powers movie where a beautiful woman has to sleep with fat bastard and stick a tracker up his ass.
Yep.
And then later they find the tracker in the toilet because he shit it out. That is, I've just remembered this just now. This is a scene in Austin Powers.
You're right.
Oh my God. Like,
took everything
he thought of that and gone, yeah, we're like cleverly parodying the spy thing. No, you're not. Austin Powers did it.
Damn, dude.
And it, oh God. I just
lost. All right, this is my last thing. Sorry, Tim, in advance. Sorry. It's even down again, like with the princess character. Stuff even more subtly, like her coming out with like a new puppy, or like having made breakfast for him, waiting there, and like being like, we should practice like when you meet my family. Like, that stuff is on its own. If something feels gross behind it, something feels like, as he's writing that, there's this weird kind of fantasy girl element of it. Like, oh, look, she like loves him. She bought him another dog. And like, oh, look, like she made breakfast. And like, I know that sounds, maybe I sound like I'm picking something weird, but it's, again, when you can feel the hands behind something kind of misguided or up to no good, even little things like that stick out. Like, they feel gross. They feel like I don't know.
I know what you're getting at. I totally see what you're getting at.
Do we have anything else to add for final thoughts here on Kingsman 2, the secret Cody Bank?
Yeah, it's a very empty movie. I wish I could. I'm sure that people. I know that everyone in the theater I saw it with, like, they loved it.
There's a lot of people laughing at things that bother
they laughed. My theater applauded, which kind of bummed me out, because it's just like, I don't know.
Have higher standards.
Yeah, have higher standards. It's a veneer. This movie is a shiny veneer.
Well,
and
that's
nothing
the thing, and the
it.
veneer is tricking people. We've gotten to the point where, and I think if to spin it maybe a positive way, I think we're getting so much good stuff that. Even these, we talk about with Marvel, these checklist movies that must hit points and they must hit fan moments that people are gonna like. Oh, it's the Thing. He got the blumpus. What did you call it? Logan finally. Oh, I love the part where
when he gets his bumbus.
Yeah, he finally got his bumbus.
Logan
what
finally.
Great. I mean, like, huge comic.
My favorite part of Logan is the last scene where he gets his bumbus.
Because we were waiting. And in all the X-Men movies, he never had the bumbus.
He says it.
He keeps talking about it.
He says, "Where the fuck did I put my bumbus?"
Yeah, and when we saw that, I mean, dude, page to screen, like, we're talking like a direct. But like, so they always have to hit those things. But we've seen that done so well so many times that now when something it seems like it's doing it. It's basically dressed up like a movie that's doing that. Like these big, cool, subversive, the Elton John scene, and like,
but it's not subversive.
You know, the arm, the bad guy's got the robot arm now, and like you're sort. I think some people
even that was a mistake, man. Like bringing back a character from the first movie who we thought was dead, and like now he's a villain and he's got a robot. Like, just make a new villain. It didn't have to be that guy. What the fuck?
There's a way that's cool. There's a way of you do that and you're like, oh, neat. Because I was kind of like, oh, neat. I didn't remember who the fuck that guy was. Thank God. I was the stupid audience member in that.
Sequel hair.
He had some pretty cool sequel hair. But he had the glasses on it, and at the bottom of it, it said like, from the last movie, we were mean to him. Like, it didn't say that, but it basically said that. Right. And I was like, oh, right. He was the dick. Yeah. I needed that so badly because otherwise I would have been lost.
I love that. There's sort of, it scans him from the last movie. He was mean to you.
Do you remember he was the one who we don't like, and he's back there. Oh, sick. Thanks, glasses.
My final thoughts on it are that Matthew Vaughn and Jane Goldman usually make the movies that are sort of the heroes. They sort of are the ones that are the secret successors. They're the ones that like maybe not everyone knows about, but everyone's like, you definitely have to see this.
Right.
And now I think that he's joined the leagues of, I don't know, like maybe not Michael Bay, but like it's just joined the leagues of normal movies that can be bad. And
yeah, it's his perspective has been a little bit clouded now.
Yeah.
And that stuff scares me. It just if we're coming at it from like this sort of aspiring, artist filmmaker-y, when you look at people who kind of lose their way, they lose that perspective that they had when they started or whatever, and you start to see them do the things that you've seen other people do, and you're like, no, not them. And then because I look at that and I'm like, well, I don't want to do, like, I hope that I don't get so ingrained in something that you forget that you don't feel like an outsider anymore. Because I feel like that's also, I mean, you look at what even the attitude of Kingsman, the whole point, there's sort of this outsider, like, and now I'm gonna do it, and it's gonna be sort of like, it's like punk rock, as you said.
The reason why Kingsman exists is because he was like, oh, Bond is getting a bit too serious now, and I don't think it's very fun anymore. So I'm going to make a new thing that's going to be everything that I think Bond should be. And now I think he's gone too far, and I think he's gone too far to the point where, like, jokes. And just and that's the thing, is that like I think that Matthew Vaughn is like through his career like has been sort of sneaking in little things that he wants to make people talk about. And in Kick-Ass, it's a brilliant thing, which is getting Hit Girl to say the C word. And in the first Kingsman, it's
Cramp.
The anal sex joke. And now he's pushing it so far that he spends about 15-20 minutes of the movie on a scene where two men are trying to finger a girl. Like he's trying to get people to talk, but he's sort of going in the wrong direction. I think he started out in the right way, but then he's sort of gone down a weird path.
You can feel that it's aimed strange.
Well, and when I
feel like
I read an I know we keep coming back to this, but it is
circles,
crazy. I think that he's like proud of that sequence too. I read an interview where he was like, he literally said, well, that's the magic of filmmaking, isn't it? And he explained like how they did it, and I was like, it was gross. It was
All right, guys, should we three-headed critic this shit and
let's do it.
Do our plugs. All right, final thought. This is Three-Headed Critic.
You want to start?
Yeah, we'll go Nick, me, Jack. Okay.
This
adventure
wasn't
that
adventurous
or
good.
Should we try enough?
I feel you should try one more. I'll start with a different. Okay. The
Kingsman
are
going
out
of
you want to say it. You want to say it. They're going out of what?
But what are we saying?
What are they going out of?
They're going out of style.
It's like the most tame way. Like, and this.
Like, am I the villain in the next movie?
After this fucking.
Yeah, that's fucking. Yeah, you're right. As a villain, being like the Kingsmen are going out of style, and it's like some fashion designer. Like,
it's the new Kingsman. It's the new agency that wants to take over.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Style.
We're calling it now.
This was I mean, we did our best.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, holy shit! Like Tim was missed.
Tim was missed. I'm so. I never thought I'd say it. All right, guys. This was Reasonable Beef.
All right.
Hey, if you dug this, do us a big goddamn favor and go to Wait, what is it? P-A-T. Go to patreon.com/reasonablebeef and give what you can. Every little dollar helps. You get access to our bonus beef episodes at the end of each month where we just talk about stuff and things. And hey, please send emails to reasonablebeef@gmail.com because we like to read that stuff. You do whatever you want. I mean, it's open season, man. Just send stuff. Send us things you want us to talk about. Send us pictures of your fucking favorite animals and why, and tell us why.
That's a desperate plea.
Man, we need Tim. We need Tim back. Anything to plug, boys?
First of all, I just want to clarify. When you spell out that website, was that Patreon?
Yeah.
Cool. I'm just making sure for those of us who speak English.
Patreon. Don't send money. Just pictures of your dog.
Patreon.com/reasonablebeef. I really had a hard time. I jumped into spelling that so confidently, but I realized after PA that I didn't remember what came next.
No, I've got nothing to plug. Just if you want to check out. Sorry?
We're going to be in Toronto. We can plug that.
We're going to be in Toronto, yeah. Will this be out before then?
I think it might. Yeah, it'll be out like before we're showing stuff.
All right, cool. So by the time this is up, on Jack and Dean, we'll have a new sketch.
Hell yeah.
It's called Self-Conscious Computer. And I'm really, really happy with it. I think it's a really funny one. I think it's one of the best ones we've done for a while. And I hope you enjoy it more than I enjoyed Kingsman 2.
Shit, dude.
Yeah.
I'm setting some high standards there.
Man, I really feel like I crumbled under the responsibility here. I mean...
No, you did a good job.
No, you're doing a good job, man.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, guys. That means a lot. You're wrong, but it means a lot that you would lie to me in the face of this fucking terrible tragedy.
I think this is good. If you guys want to
surround yourself with friends who, in the face of your worst mistake, will tell you what you need to hear.
Yeah.
Which is that it was all fine.
What were you gonna say, Nick?
Nothing. I was gonna plug my podcast, but
plug your podcast.
Yeah, if you guys, I've got a new podcast with Robert Benfer and Connor Cruz. If you guys want to check that out, it's called the RNC Podcast.
Yeah,
it's not your daddy's podcast, but we are wearing your daddy's clothes, and we have your dad. So if you guys want to come check that out, and then if you guys live in LA, if anyone lives in LA, you can come check. You can catch me at UCB on the 3rd of next month at like 10 p.m. And that's it.
I'll be there. Maybe I'll go.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw.
I
all
won't be there, which is a shame.
I'm gonna open a bag of corn nuts and every joke you tell, I'm gonna throw a. What's fair?
I mean, that sounds like a reward.
How many corn
Every
nuts?
joke that I tell, I get snacks thrown at me.
No, you're not. I'm not aiming for anywhere near where you're gonna get to taste it. Well, this was a disaster. Great job, guys.
Okay. Thanks for listening, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Bye.
Little kiss.
Come on, get down with the sickness. Open up your hate and let it flow into me. Get up, come on, get down with the sickness. You mother, get up, come on, get down with the sickness. You fucker, get up, come on, get down with the sickness. Madness is the gift that has been given to me.